The quiet advantage. Why privacy protects power. What if your silence was never a weakness, but your most strategic advantage? Could the urge to overshare be the very thing sabotaging your peace and progress? And what would your life look like if you stopped explaining and started executing in private? There's something powerful about silence, about keeping parts of yourself tucked away from the world in a time when everyone is eager to share their every move, every thought, every feeling. Choosing to remain private gives you an advantage. See, when people don't know much about you, they can't predict your next step, they can't interfere with your plans, and most importantly, they can't use your own words against you. Privacy is power. Too often we think that openness is a sign of trust, that sharing everything with others makes us more connected. But in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That the truth is not everyone who listens to you has good intentions. Some people listen just to find your weaknesses. They smile in your face, nod their heads, act like they care, but in reality, they may one day use to manipulate you, judge you, or spread rumors about you. Last year, the less they know, the less control they have. Look around at the world today. People post their struggles online, tell their deepest secrets to those they barely know, and then wonder why they face betrayal, judgment, or unexpected obstacles. When you hand out pieces of, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That your life freely, you give others the power to shape your story, you give them access to your highs and lows, and before you know it, they start deciding what you're capable of, what you deserve, and what your future should look like. But when you keep things to yourself, when you guard your plans, your emotions, and your personal life, you stay in control. Nobody can define you. But you think about those who truly hold influence. They move in silence, they don't announce their every step, yet somehow they always seem 10 steps ahead. Why? Because they understand, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. And that privacy protects progress. The moment you speak too soon, the moment you reveal too much, you give others a chance to interfere. It could be jealousy, it could be doubt, or it could be sheer negativity. But the more people know, the more they feel entitled to give their opinions, and not all opinions are meant to be heard. You ever notice how the loudest people, the ones who always talk about what they're going to do, often accomplish the least? That's because talking about something gives a false sense of achievement. You say, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That you're going to do something, people clap for you, and suddenly it feels like you've already won. But words mean nothing without action. The real winners, they let their success speak for itself. They don't need validation from others, they don't need applause before they've earned it. They just do the work, and by the time people realize what they've been up to, it's already done. Being private doesn't mean being secretive, it doesn't mean shutting everyone out or living in isolation. It simply means being intentional with what you share. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. And with whom not everyone needs to know your personal struggles, not everyone deserves to hear your dreams, not everyone should have access to your vulnerabilities. Because the moment you start filtering who gets to know what, you'll notice something. Your life becomes more peaceful, the noise disappears, the drama fades, and most importantly, your focus sharpens. There's a reason why some of the most successful people in the world are also some of the most private. They understand that when you guard your personal life, you protect your energy. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. And when you protect your energy, you make room for growth, for success, for happiness. So the next time you feel the urge to overshare, to tell the world your next move, to vent about your struggles, to just anyone willing to listen, pause, ask yourself, do they really need to know this? Will this information serve me or expose me? Because once something is out there, you can't take it back. Privacy is power. Use it wisely. Not everyone clapping for you wants to see you win. Not everyone who smiles in your face has good intentions. Some people are only in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Around to collect information, to watch, to wait, to see when and how they can use what they know about you to their advantage. That's why you have to be careful, you have to be selective, you have to understand that not everyone deserves access to you. People will disguise themselves as friends, as supporters, as allies, but deep down they're only there to feed their curiosity. They want to know how you think, how you feel, what makes you happy, what makes you weak. And sometimes they won't even use that information against in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That you right away, they'll store it, keep it in their back pocket. And when the time is right, when they feel threatened, when jealousy creeps in, when their own insecurities get the best of them, that's when they strike. That's when you start hearing things you never told anyone but them. That's when you realize that what you thought was a friend was really just a spy. You ever wonder why certain things in your life take a wrong turn right after you speak on them? You had a plan, you were moving in silence, and everything was going well. Then you got in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Excited, you shared your progress with the wrong person, and suddenly everything started falling apart. That's not a coincidence. Some people don't even have to physically do anything to sabotage you. Just their energy, their negativity, their silent wishes for you to fail can be enough to shift things out of place. That's why you have to be mindful, not paranoid, not fearful, but mindful. It's not about shutting people out completely. It's about recognizing who is genuinely for you and who is just there for the show. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That some people only want to be close to you so they can say they were there when you made it, or worse, so they can take credit for your success. Others want to be close just to make sure you never get too far ahead of them. And then there are those who only keep you around because they like having someone to gossip about, someone to compare themselves to, someone to secretly compete with. The problem is most of the time you don't even realize who these people are until it's too late, until they've already used what they know. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Against you until they've already taken what they could get and left. That's why protecting your personal life, your struggles, your dreams, your fears is so important. The less people know, the less they can manipulate. The less they know, the less they can judge. The less they know, the less power they have over you. And don't think for a second that just because someone has been around for a long time, they're automatically loyal. Time doesn't determine loyalty, character does. Some people will stand next to you for years pretending to be. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. On your side, while secretly hoping you don't go too far, others will act supportive to your face but speak doubt behind your back. That's why you have to pay attention, not just to what people say, but to how they act when things start going well for you. Do they genuinely celebrate you, or do they get quiet? Do they support you without hesitation, Or do they make subtle comments that plant seeds of doubt? The signs are always there. You just have to be willing to see them. At the end of the day, you don't owe anyone access to your life. You don't, in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, that have to explain yourself, your moves, your goals, or your struggles to anyone who hasn't proven they can be trusted. Your energy, your peace, your privacy, those are things you have to guard, because once you give them away too freely, you don't get to control what they do with the information you handed over. And most of the time, once you realize you told the wrong person too much, it's already too late. There's something powerful about a person who doesn't say too much, someone who moves with quiet confidence, someone in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves to the world. Mystery commands respect when people can't quite figure you out, when they don't know what you're thinking, when they can't predict your next move. They have no choice but to watch and wonder, and that wonder, that's what keeps you in control. People are naturally curious. They want to know what you're up to, what you're planning, how you feel about certain things, not because they care most of the time. It's because they want to measure you, categorize you, find a way to fit you in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, into a box. But the moment they think they have you all figured out, they stop paying attention. The moment they feel like they know everything about you, they stop respecting the unknown. That's why it's important to leave something unsaid, to keep a part of yourself private, to make sure people never know enough about you to feel like they can define you. Look at the people who hold influence, the ones who walk into a room and immediately shift the energy. It's not because they're the loudest, it's not because they're constantly proving in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, themselves. It's because there's something about them that isn't immediately obvious. They don't tell you everything, they don't reveal every thought, they don't explain every decision, and that makes people pay attention. The truth is, the more you say, the less impact your words have. When you always have something to prove, when you're constantly defending yourself, when you feel the need to explain your every move, you make it easy for people to dismiss you. You make it easy for them to challenge you, to argue with you too. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Question your decisions, but when you learn to say less, to move with intention, to let people wonder instead of handing them all the answers, you become untouchable. You ever notice how the people who talk the most are often taken the least seriously? That's because when you give away too much, when you explain too much, when you let people into every part of your life, they start feeling like they have a say in it. And once people feel like they can predict you, they stop respecting you. But when they don't know what's coming next, when they don't know, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. What you're thinking, when they can't quite put you in a category, that's when they start paying attention. That's when they start respecting your presence. It's not about being cold or distant, it's about being intentional with what you share. Some people think being open is a sign of strength, that if they tell everyone everything, they're being real. But real strength isn't in what you reveal, it's in what you hold back. It's in knowing that not every thought needs to be spoken, not every plan needs to be shared, not every emotion needs to be explained. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Because the truth is, when people don't know too much about you, they can't form a full Picture they can make guesses, they can assume, but they'll never be certain, and that uncertainty, that's where power lies. It keeps people on edge, keeps them thinking, keeps them watching. And when they're watching, when they're curious, when they respect the fact that they don't have you all figured out, that's when you hold the upper hand. So don't be so quick to explain yourself. Don't feel the need to overshare. Don't hand people the in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Blueprint to your life. Let them wonder, let them guess, let them respect the fact that they don't know everything about you. Because once they realize they can't figure you out, they'll have no choice but to respect you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that everyone around them needs to know everything about their life. They believe that sharing every detail, every problem, every success, and every thought will bring them closer to others. But the truth is, the more you share, the more you invite unnecessary drama into your life. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Not everyone needs to know what you're going through. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, and not everyone will handle your truth with care. You ever notice how certain problems seem to get worse after you talk about them with the wrong person? Maybe you shared something personal, thinking you were confiding in a friend, only to find out later that they twisted your words, spread your business, or use your struggles against you. That's not by accident. Some people listen to respond, not to understand. Some listen to. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Collect information, not to help, and some listen simply because they enjoy the entertainment of your difficulties. People love a good story, especially when it's not their own. They thrive on gossip, on knowing something about someone else that they can pass along, on being the one who knows the inside scoop. And if you make the mistake of constantly feeding them details about your life, you become the source of their entertainment. The more you give them, the more they have to talk about. And before you know it, your personal business is in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, being passed around like a rumor, stretched and twisted into something you barely recognize. There are those who will pretend to care just to keep you talking. They'll ask all the right questions, not at all the right moments, and make you feel like they genuinely want to help. But pay attention to what happens afterward. Do they keep your confidence? Do they offer real support? Or do they disappear until the next time they want to know what's going on in your life? The wrong people don't care about solutions, they care about stories. And if you give in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Them too many. Don't be surprised when you hear your own words coming back to you from someone else's mouth. Some conflicts don't start because of what happened, they start because too many people knew about it. What could have been a small issue between two people turns into a mess when outsiders get involved. Opinions start flying, sides get taken, and suddenly a situation that could have been resolved privately becomes bigger than it ever needed to be. That's why silence is your best defense. The less you say, the fewer opportunities. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That you give people to twist your words, insert their opinions, or turn your personal business into public drama. And it's not just about keeping problems to self, it's about keeping your victories quiet too. Some people don't want to see you when they act happy for you, but deep down they're waiting for you to fail. The moment they see you doing well, they start feeling threatened, and that's when the negativity begins. They'll tell you your plans won't work, that you're not as capable as you think, that your dreams are unrealistic. Not in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, because they truly believe that, but because they don't want to see you go further than them. Ever notice how some people only show up when you're struggling, but the moment things start going well, they disappear? That's because some people are only comfortable when you're on the same level as them, or lower. The moment they see you rising, they feel insecure, and those insecurities they turn into negativity, into doubt, into subtle comments meant to shake your confidence. But if you keep things to yourself, if you move in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Silence, if you don't give them a front row seat to your progress, they don't get a chance to interfere. At the end of the day, not everything needs to be shared, not every thought needs to be spoken, not every situation needs outside opinions. Peace comes from knowing when to stay quiet, when to protect your energy, and when to keep your business where it belongs with you. The less they know, the less they can interfere. People love to talk about what they're going to do. They announce their goals, their dreams, their next big move, thinking that in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. To be why saying it out loud, they're somehow making it real. But the truth is, words mean nothing without action, and the more you talk, the more you waste the energy that should be fueling your progress. The loudest person in the room is rarely the one making the biggest impact. It's the one who stays focused, who moves in silence, who doesn't need validation before they take action. There's something powerful about a person who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves, someone who doesn't broadcast every step of their journey. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That's someone who just does the work and lets the results speak for themselves. You ever notice how the most successful people don't go around making announcements? They just show up one day and suddenly they're at the top. No warnings, no long speeches about what they were going to do, just result. That's because they understand that real progress happens in private. When you keep your plans to yourself, you eliminate distractions, you remove outside opinions, and you allow yourself the space to focus. The moment you start talking to in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That much about what you're going to do, you open the door for negativity. Some people won't believe in you. They'll tell you it's impossible, that you're not ready, that you should think small or not, because they truly know what's best for you, but because they can't see themselves doing it. And if they can't see themselves winning, they don't want you to win either. Others will act supportive, but behind closed doors they'll be hoping you don't follow through, because if you do, it will remind them of everything they never had. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Courage to do. And then there are those who will steal your ideas. You think you're sharing something exciting, something unique, only to see someone else run with it before you even get the chance. It happens all the time. People take what they hear and use it for themselves. And by the time you're ready to execute, they're already ahead. But if you keep your plans private, if you stay quiet and just do the work, nobody can take what they don't know. About talking about your goals gives you a false sense of accomplishment. You say, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. That you're going to do something, people clap for you, and suddenly it feels like you've already won. But applause without action is just noise. The real work isn't the announcement, it's in the execution. And the problem with announcing your plans too soon is that once the excitement fades, you're left with the hard part, the actual work, and by then you've already used up the energy that should have been pushing you forward. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to explain your moves, defend your decisions, or seek in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Approval before you take action. The only proof you need is the result. When you succeed, people will see it. When you accomplish what you set out to do, there won't be a need for explanations. The work will speak for itself. And when that happens, the same people who doubted you, who ignored you, who didn't take you seriously will be the ones asking how you did it. But by then it won't matter, because you didn't do it for them, you did it for yourself. So don't waste time talking, don't waste energy explaining, don't give people the chance. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. To interfere with your progress. Stay quiet, stay focused, and let your results do all the talking. There's something about keeping things to yourself that gives you an edge. When people don't know what's going on in your life, they can't interfere, they can't slow you down, and they can't plant seeds of doubt where confidence should be growing. Protecting your privacy isn't about being secretive. It's about protecting your peace, your focus, and your ability to grow without unnecessary distractions. Because the truth is, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. The more people know, the more they feel entitled to have a say in your life. And not everyone's opinion is worth listening to. People love to give advice, when whether they're qualified to or not. The moment you share your goals, your dreams, or even your struggles, you open the door for others to weigh in. Some will mean well, offering encouragement and support, but many will only add confusion, doubt, or negativity. They'll tell you why it won't work, why you're not ready, why someone else has already done it better. And even if you don't, in a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. Believe them, those words stick with you. They creep into your mind at the worst times, make you second guess yourself when you should be moving forward. And then there are those who pretend to support you, but secretly hope you fail. They smile, they nod, they say all the right things, but deep down they don't want to see you grow beyond them. Because the moment you start changing, the moment you start improving, it forces them to confront their own lack of progress. And rather than rising with you, they'd rather keep you where you are. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. They'd rather make you feel guilty for wanting more, for dreaming bigger, for refusing to settle. That's why it's so important to protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, your emotions. When you allow too many voices into your life, you make it harder to hear your own. And the moment you start letting other people's opinions shape your decisions, you lose control of your own path. You start hesitating when you should be moving forward. You start looking for approval when you should be trusting. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. At yourself. Some people drain you without you even realizing it. They come with their problems, their complaints, their negativity, and before you know it, your mind is cluttered with things that have nothing to do with you. And the more you entertain those distractions, the less energy you have for your own growth. You can't build your future if you're constantly weighed down by other people's expectations, opinions, and doubts. Growth requires focus, it requires discipline, it requires a level of tunnel vision that not everyone will understand. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart. And that's okay, you're not here to make everyone comfortable, you're not here to explain yourself to those who don't see the vision. You're here to become the person you're meant to be, and that process doesn't require an audience. The people who are meant to support you will do so without needing to know every detail. And the ones who aren't, well, they'll remove themselves once they realize they no longer have access to you. Silence isn't weakness, privacy isn't isolation, it's strength, it's clarity, it's understanding that your path is in a world constantly craving attention and applause. Restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart, that yours alone. And not everyone needs a front row seat to your journey. Some things are meant to be kept sacred, to be nurtured in solitude until they're strong enough to withstand outside influence. And when you protect your peace, when you guard your energy, when you focus on your own growth without unnecessary interference, that's when you truly thrive. So stay focused, stay quiet, and don't let anyone have more access to your life than they deserve. In a world constantly craving attention and applause, restraint becomes a rare and powerful form of discipline, one that sets you apart.